Hello and welcome back to the Listening to Your Gut podcast. Today I have a sweet friend, Amanda Aguilar. I'm going to share with you all the things that she has attached to her name, but then I'm going to tell you what I think of her beyond all of those accolades. So, if you don't know Amanda, she is an incredible podcast host. She is the host of the self-love, excuse me, the she is the host of oh my gosh, Embrace, there we go.
Yes.
She is the host of the Embrace Her Evolution podcast. Duh. Uh, she, she is also a former news reporter. She just recently left, but is Emmy award winning from having done that as a long standing career. And she's also a TEDx speaker. But apart from all that, and of course, she's an empowerment and self love coach. But apart from all that, I just told Amanda this is the way I view her. She is like the the star of the room, and I don't mean that in like a celebrity. Of course she is, but she is, when you walk into a room and you see Amanda, you're like, I just want to be close to that woman. I just want to be in her aura, in her sphere, because Amanda is just that woman that is accepting of everyone, but also is unapologetically herself and will speak her mind and is not worried about what anyone else thinks. And I freaking love that about Amanda. So, Amanda, welcome to the podcast.
Oh my God. I need you to introduce me all the time on the podcast now. Like ultimate hype woman. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me on your podcast. I'm excited just to be in your presence and speaking to you because, like I said, we talked a little earlier, like your energy, you also want to be around your kind of energy too.
Well, thank you. I mean, the feeling I feel like is mutual for us. But you just bring something to this conversation that we're going to have today that is, of course, like unlike any other, in that yes, you have all of these incredible accolades behind your name, right? But you also are human just like the rest of us and also have a condition that you've been dealing with for a good
Yeah.
portion of your life. You've been dealing with UC. So I told you, I reached out to you and said I want to chat with you about this because I know people that listen to this podcast that have UC that are like, "Oh my God, like how do I deal with this? Like how do I be a human being?" And
Mhm.
also manage this at the same time. Um, and I also want to learn more about it because I've watched your journey. I continue to watch your journey. And in you recently leaving, the newscasting, you shared recently a pretty big revelation, which was that when you made this transition, it didn't cause a flare up in your UC. So we're going to talk about that and a lot more, but I would love for us to start with the beginning of your journey. Like, when did you find out that you had UC, and how did you deal with that mentally,
Mhm.
just physically, everything? And then we'll take it from there.
Yeah, so I was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis. This is a inflammatory bowel disease.
Yeah.
I was diagnosed in 2010, so I was a sophomore in college. But it took a good, I want to say it took at least 6 to 8 months before I got diagnosed. I was just noticing like my stomach was hurting all the time. Like after I was eating, I was like going to the bathroom immediately after I was eating. And when I was going to the bathroom, anytime I was having bowel movements, there was always blood in the toilet.
Yeah.
And I was like, that is not that is not normal.
Mhm.
And I was away at college, and so I was seeing a doctor who wasn't my normal doctor. And, they were kind of just like, oh, there's, probably some inflammation and let's give you a suppository. And the suppositories worked
Mm.
until they didn't. And then I was constantly going through the tummy aches, the bleeding, and it just went on for a good like 8 months. And my mom finally was like, okay, you need to come home and like, let's see your actual primary care physician and what is happening. And so I went And she was just like, "You need to see a GI doctor." And I was like, "Okay." And I really had no, like, I don't even think I knew of ulcerative colitis. Like, I just, that wasn't something, and it's crazy because I lived with all nursing majors, but, like, medical stuff was not my thing.
Yeah.
I went in for a procedure and, yeah, essentially they diagnosed me with ulcerative colitis and, put me on medicine. I had to go talk to a nutritionist, a dietitian, because I mean, I think for a lot of people it is, food that triggers flare-ups,
Mm,
like red meat. I know for me, even just spicy foods, like really spicy foods can definitely trigger it.
right.
But even though I was diagnosed with it when I was a sophomore in college, I didn't tell anyone, like, only my roommates, because they had to live with me. They had to share the bathroom with me. Like, I wanted to let them know, that
Yeah.
my bowel movements are not normal and I'm gonna flare up. And it was actually nice to live with nursing majors because they stayed on top of me when it came to
Oh,
medicine. Because
yeah.
they were like, "Do you want to have like an ostomy bag?" And you're gonna have to. And I'm like, "No, I don't." They would kind of scare me and they're like, "You have to take your medicine." So it
Mhm.
was nice living with nursing majors because they made me stay on top of it, because I think a part of me was like, I just want to forget this. I want to forget I have this because this is hell of embarrassing. Like,
Yeah.
it's embarrassing to be like, I poop blood, or every time I go out to eat, like, I have to rush to the bathroom, and because I don't know if I can hold,
Right.
my bowel movement. And so I just wanted to forget about it. So that's what I did. Honestly, I just did not tell anyone. I did not talk about it. I really just suffered in silence. And a part of, having ulcerative colitis, because you're going to the bathroom so much, like, I was losing so much weight. I think the lightest I ever got because of a flare up was maybe like 89, 90 pounds. And, like, I'm a small girl, but that is
No,
just
yeah.
way too light for me. And it was always interesting because anytime I'd go through a flare up and I'd lose all this weight, of course, people, Western beauty standards, are like, "Oh my gosh, you're so skinny. Like, what are you doing? You look so good." And in my head, I'm like, I'm literally just suffering and pooping a lot. Like,
Comfortable.
that's
Yeah.
why. And it was awful because I just didn't want to tell people.
Yeah.
So I really just, yeah, kept it quiet for a good more than 10 years, like more than a decade. And it wasn't until that episode that I put out on Embrace Your Evolution and
Yeah.
talked about it, finally open in the public, is when I guess when I started really accepting my condition and not letting it just determine who I am and not letting it define me. But yeah, it's something that I'm learning to really live with out in the open.
Mhm.
Now I can tell people, if I'm going to the bathroom right after, or if my stomach aches, it's there's a flare up, and I've
Yeah.
been able to talk to work about it. I know when I was in news and I had to go through a colonoscopy, I didn't want to tell my boss about that, but I finally at my last station, admitted and said, "Look, I have ulcerative colitis. It means I have to go in for a colonoscopy. I need this day off. I need the next day off." And it was also really nice. I had a manager who didn't have ulcerative colitis. She had Crohn's disease. So it's essentially the same thing, but she understood.
Yeah.
Like, she understood why if I was going to the bathroom a lot, or if I couldn't come into work because, like, you're just constantly going to the bathroom, like the urgency, I would not have lasted, in the newsroom, just constantly running to the bathroom. And so it
Sure.
was nice that she understood that and she was open about her journey, because that made me comfortable about mine.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had been on medicine, and I stopped taking medicine because I wanted to really just kind of heal it naturally, or just manage it naturally.
Yeah.
And I realized a lot of my flare ups were caused by stress. And kind of going into what you mentioned,
Yeah.
anytime I was really freaking stressed and, like, just could not manage my stress, I was always flaring up.
Mhm.
So anytime I had job searches, I ended up in the ER. because I was flaring up because I was so stressed about finding a job. So when I was working in Kansas and I was looking for my next job, ended up in the ER because I was so stressed. When I was in Georgia and I was looking for my next job, ended up in the ER as well because I was so stressed.
Yeah.
But this time around, as when I was in Fresno and I was, I was obviously transitioning out of news and looking to see what's next in my chapter. um, that I honestly thought like, "Oh god, this is way stressful because I don't know what I'm going into." My other job searches, it was like I knew I was going into news.
Yeah.
This job search, it was like, I don't know what the hell is gonna happen. And I knew that was gonna be more stressful for me. But a huge win, I didn't I didn't end up in the ER. I was able to manage my stress, and yeah, I didn't have a flare up. And I think I also realized too, and it's so interesting with UC, like everyone is so different. I actually joined a UC Facebook group, which has been nice because, again, I was always so ashamed. So to join a Facebook group, and that's a great thing about creating community, right?
Yep.
And so I have this community of people dealing with UC as well. And
Yeah.
it's interesting to see everyone has different things that flare them up. Like I remember someone was like, I can't even eat vegetables because it flares them up.
Whoa.
Which is wild because you always hear, like, you have to eat your vegetables, but that
Yeah.
flares them up. It gets them inflamed and,
Wow.
like, just different people, and so for me, it was really the stress. Hot sauce, like, anything spicy,
Uh-huh.
will flare me up. Alcohol was a huge thing that flared me up, which makes sense now that I look back at my college years and why I was constantly flaring up because I was drinking so much. And now that I've cut alcohol out of my life, that I also credit that as to why I haven't had a flare up in a while. So it's been an interesting journey and it's constantly learning. But it feels good to just be able to be like, yeah, I have UC. Like
Yeah.
my bowel movements are a little messed up, but it's been an interesting journey for sure.
Well, I mean, props to you in so many different ways because, I mean, one, being an advocate, I mean, you are by sharing your story, right? And that's impacting, you've shared about it on your podcast. So it's impacting those that have listened to that and will continue to listen. We're talking about it here. I mean, and for the foreseeable future, the more you continue to talk about it, I just think the more we start to understand that, like, hey, everybody is dealing with something, and it
Mhm.
may not be a digestive condition, it may not be an autoimmune disease, like it may not be something where we have to curtail our lifestyle or our diet, but everybody's dealing with something. And for you to share that, especially the the spotlight you had on you and continue to have on you, I think it's really awesome for people to see you and say, wow, like, look, she did all these things, and behind the scenes she was struggling with this, and still from time to time can continue to struggle with this. I mean, how scary would that be to be going to the bathroom and having blood come out, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I think about that. I know that that's part of that condition, but I think about, like, the other side of the coin is like, oh my gosh, you have colon cancer, right? Because that's
Mhm.
also,
That's
associated with that
high
as well.
risk
And
for
so it's,
it.
yeah, so it's just, it's very very scary to hear those things. And I can only imagine you being in college and being diagnosed with this, how daunting that was. And I mean, you kind of said it yourself. It was like, this is a whole new ball game, like learning how to deal
Mhm.
with this and like how to respond to it, and then not feeling comfortable sharing it with a whole lot of people too. I mean,
Yeah.
I'd feel the same way.
It was very interesting just even being a news reporter and having you see, and I'm
Yeah.
honestly really happy that I put the episode out because I
Mhm.
had a lot of reporters then message me like, "Oh my gosh, like I have UC, like I deal with Crohn's disease too." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh." And it was really hard as a reporter because there would be times where I was going through a flare up and I just did not eat the whole day at work
Uh,
because I was like, I'm on a story, right? As a news reporter, we
yeah.
have these deadlines by
Yeah.
the end of the day, certain times. And as news reporters, we barely can go to the bathroom. And
Yeah.
so I just wouldn't eat because I was like, if I eat, like, what if I have to go to the bathroom like in 10 minutes? Like, is there going to be a bathroom there? I don't even have time to go to the bathroom because I got to finish my story. So there were a lot of times, especially when I was in Kansas and Georgia, where again, it was still, I put it on the back burner. I didn't want anyone to know. I was dealing with
Yeah,
it silently. But yeah, there were a lot of times I'd go to work, just did not eat anything until I got home because I knew there was a bathroom right there.
right.
And so I
Oh,
like look back and I'm like, dang, like that's just not healthy, first of all.
yeah,
But yeah, that was one of the things that I had to kind of deal with as a reporter in a very high pace, high stress,
mhm,
fast paced, high stress environment. I just, yeah, if I was dealing with a flare up, I just didn't eat and just be like, okay, I'll eat when I get home
right.
because I'm not on any deadline anymore and there's a bathroom just a few feet away.
Yeah. Oh, gosh. I mean, and again, we take for granted, like, being able to go to the restroom whenever we,
Yeah.
please, and it's like, that's not the case for, people that are struggling with UC. That I can not even imagine the stress that that would cause you, and then, the lack of energy and stamina you would have
Mhm.
then because you had
Yeah, a lot of people with UC are anemic and they get tired very, very
yeah.
easily. Definitely experience that.
Mm,
And so, yeah, I think always had to remind my parents that when they'd be like, "Why are you so exhausted?" And like, "Cause I'm anemic. Like, I don't have enough iron. Like, that's why I'm so tired." But
oh,
it was hard because I was already working a job that exhausted me and then
yeah,
dealing with just low energy.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So, I mean, it begs the question to be asked, like, what are some of the things you're currently doing now that have really helped you to stay on the other side of things, to keep it at bay? I
Mhm.
know you said you've really tapped into like managing your stress levels and obviously avoiding, can't always avoid spicy foods, but
Right.
being mindful of that. I know you said you cut out alcohol. Like, what what changes and tweaks have you made from, 10 years ago till now?
Yeah, I think honestly, it really came down to mindset. I
Yeah.
realized that a lot of my stress came from me overthinking, me trying to like, I am such a planner. Like,
Mm,
I could have something not even happen yet, but I'm still going to plan A, plan B, plan C just in case this situation happens.
yep.
And that caused me so much stress. So, I will say, for example, this transition out of news, like
Yeah.
definitely during the beginning, I was like planning for something to happen and then all these other things, what I would do if this thing happened. And that would just cause me so much stress and I would just overthink everything. And so I mean, we hear it all the time like, don't stress over things that you have no control of, and don't stress about things that haven't even happened yet.
Right.
Like, like,
Yeah.
that is something I would always do,
Yep.
and it's interesting because this year, my word of the year is, ease.
Oh.
And that was something that I was just like, how do I put more ease into my life? Like, how do I just go with the flow?
Mhm.
And go with the flow is literally that, just like letting go and surrendering and trusting. And so, as I went through my transition out of news, that's exactly what I did. I was just like, okay, let's get out of this planning thing, this planning stage, trying to, predict the future, control the future. We just
Right.
don't have control of that, and there's no reason to freak out over it.
Yeah.
And so a lot of it was just mindset work of like, what is meant for me
Mhm.
is going to find me. There's no right or wrong path. I think I always got stuck on that of like, oh my God, am I going to make the right decision? Is this the wrong decision? Is this path going to help me? Like, what is meant for you is meant for you. You are meant to go whatever path you choose. Like, that needs to happen to get to wherever you want to go. And so, I was able to manage my stress really just with mindset, also just meditation.
Mm,
Like, I am definitely I enjoy meditating, but I also have, like, the attention span of a little child.
Mm,
But like once I'm really able to drop into my body and meditate, like it
yeah,
really does help. Getting outside, just sitting on my porch with my dog,
mhm,
just giving myself 5 or 10 minutes, because that's something also I didn't realize is like I don't know how to slow down, because in news it's like go, 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 go.
yeah,
Slowing down was very foreign to me. Like it felt very weird for a while. And then I started doing it more and just realized how grounded and just at ease I
sure,
felt at the time. So I think for me, managing my stress all came down to mindset. And so I credit that and being able to kind of coach myself as well when I would find myself overthinking,
yeah,
coach myself through the mindset drama. And that's how I really was able to essentially make sure that I wasn't going to flare up during a really stressful and uncertain time.
sure. That is incredible. Just the power of our mindset and really
Hmm.
that work on ourselves, right? But you made me think of something else. I wonder, and this is totally side tangent. You made me think of your schedule, right, was so busy and go, go, go. And you also were morning news. So you were
Yeah.
getting up at like the butt crack of dawn, actually way before then. So like I don't know. I wonder, might that have also played a factor too of just like the your schedule and just how jam-packed and how long that day was?
Hmm.
Maybe the lack of sleep too?
Yes, 100%. It's
Yeah.
interesting because, and that's another reason why I decided to leave news, was like for health.
Yeah.
It's funny because I was the health reporter. So I would always do health stories. And so I was
Mm,
constantly talking to doctors and nurses for interviews. And anytime afterwards, I would ask them questions. And I remember I was talking to a sleep specialist for a story. And after the story, after our interview, I was like, hey, like, this is my sleep schedule. Like, this is the time I wake up. And, how does that affect you? And she straight up looked at me and she was like, that is not healthy. Like,
huh,
that is not healthy to be waking up at that time when it's still dark outside. Like, your body is supposed to wake up with the sun, with the light. And that was kind of my realization. I think this career is killing me slowly. Like, and it sucks because I enjoyed it,
yeah,
but I'm getting older and I need to focus on my health, especially dealing with a chronic illness.
sure.
And so yeah, the waking up at 1:45 a.m. was just not healthy for me.
Oh,
The constant go, go, go also put me in this like state of fight or flight. Like it was urgency all the time. Like my body was just always feeling urgent. Like
mm,
even when I would go on vacations, like I couldn't relax because I was
yeah,
constantly like, oh my gosh, I'm going to get back to work. I have all of
yeah,
this stuff to do. Like, is this interview going to come through? Can I do this story? Like, I did
yeah,
not know what it felt like to have a
gee,
regulated nervous system.
yeah,
Like, it was dysregulated for the 10 years I was in news. And so I do think that also played a big, big role
yeah,
in my, ulcerative colitis and managing my stress. And especially as, I mean, I entered the news industry when I was like 22. Like I was so young, and I didn't know much about health, and the chaos, the adrenaline that was exciting to
yeah,
me as a young girl, as a young woman. And then you get a little older, and we get older and we do really have to start focusing on our health. And so that was also another reason why I decided to leave, because I was like, I'm ready for my body to be regulated.
yeah.
And I will say it's been almost a month since I've been out of news, and I can already feel like my body thanking me for leaving, honestly.
Oh, I love
Yeah.
hearing that. You're just like, gosh, what a champion for those that are silently struggling. I think, the next thing that I feel called to chat about is like what was that pivotal moment for you where you're like,
Mm,
This is it. I'm putting in my 2 weeks or what have you, however that process went. Like what was that like? And I imagine,
yeah.
you probably struggled with maybe going back and forth, like, "Yep, I'm gonna resign. Nope, I'm gonna, hold on." Like, fill us
Were
in.
you in my head, Kelly?
I mean, I
Like,
can imagine only because that's I feel like how I would be too. I'd be like, "Yep, I'm gonna
yeah.
do it. Oh, no, wait a second."
No, that is exactly I always tell people when they're like, "Oh my God, this is very shocking." And I know it was very shocking to a lot of people, but it was like 2 years coming. Like I wanted to leave news back in 2022. And it started with burnout and
Okay.
I was really burnt out. But I also wasn't at that point of like, oh, I'm ready. I was kind of just like, F this. Like I just was very emotional kind of mind, not really a logic thinking. And I talked to my bosses and, explained to them I was burnt out and they came up with solutions, which I'm so grateful for.
Awesome.
And that was helping. But I will say that like when things are just not in alignment for you anymore, your body is going to tell you, and the universe, God, or whatever higher power you believe in, it's going to keep giving you nudges to like let you know. And so first it was the burnout and then it was just not feeling happy going into work.
Yeah.
And which was crazy to me because this is something I've wanted to do since I was in high school. Like I worked so hard. I went through
Sure.
school to do this. Like, and so when I felt not happy, I was like, this is really weird. Like, why am I not happy? And like, I should be happy because this is what I've wanted all my life.
Mhm.
And there were just like little nudges that kept happening. And it was interesting because I remember asking my friend one time, she had just left her corporate 9 to 5 to go into full time entrepreneurship. And that was honestly, I kept getting these nudges of like, you need to leave news, you need to jump into the coaching space. And so
Mhm.
I asked her, like, how did you know it was time? Like, what did you do? And she just gave me a very simple kind of visual meditation to do. She was just like, go in your room, sit somewhere quiet, close your eyes. And she said, imagine yourself waking up in your bed. What does your day look like? Like, what are you doing? Are you
Mhm.
going to get coffee? Like, what does it feel like? How does your day unfold?
Yeah.
And I did that. And I started crying after because news wasn't a part of that day anymore. And that was the moment where I was like, I'm not living the life that I want anymore.
Right.
And even though I had that realization, it took me probably another year and a half to then put in my resignation letter because again, it was the back and forth. I had an opportunity. I interviewed at a station back home in the Bay Area, which has always been my dream. It was my dream station. My
Uh-huh.
family grew up watching it. Like that was actually the goal was
Yeah.
to get to that station. And when I had an opportunity to interview, I was already in a mindset of like, oh, I'm going to leave. But then I was like, I would regret not doing the interview. And so I went through the interview process. It didn't end up working. And I truly believe that rejection is redirection
Yeah.
because when they said no to me, that's when I was like, okay, you need to leave. This is your opportunity to leave.
Yeah.
Stop going back and forth. Like, you know what you need to do as scared as you are. And
Yeah.
I look back and I was like, if I even got the job, I would have been happy because I could be like, yay, I got the job. I'm back reporting, but I wouldn't be happy. I would just be happy because I got to say, "Ooh, I succeeded.
Yeah.
I was able to reach my goal," but I wouldn't have been happy in the end.
Yeah.
So it really took me a good like 2 years to put in my resignation letter. And even when I did put in the resignation letter, I was still like, am I making a mistake? Like, did I just mess up my whole entire life? But again, it was all about mindset of like, you know, what is meant for you. Like you did so much as a reporter, Amanda. You accomplished so much in your news career. And all of that is preparing you for the next step. I don't
Mhm.
know what the next step is, but it's gonna be good. Like it can only get better.
Mhm.
And so it was definitely a very scary, stressful time. But I look back and I'm thankful that I went through all the highs, the lows, the switching of like, should I leave? Should I not leave? Because honestly, I love now the life that I'm living.
Aw, well, I love that for you, and I know you mentioned that you're stepping into the coaching space now
Yeah.
and you're focused on self-love and empowerment coaching. And I did one of your, I want to call them kind of like a challenge, if you will. That was a self-love challenge. And I just have to say, please do more of those because I love that. Those prompts for each day were great. It was over the course of a week. And I was just like, this is so doable,
Yay.
so manageable. But then at the end of the week, I was like, wow, I do feel more like self-compassionate, you
I
know?
love that.
Yeah, so
No, I will have more
please.
challenges. I'm
Yeah.
actually gonna plan. I don't know when, but I want to do one about like rest and play.
Ooh, okay, sign me up.
Yeah. So, because I think we, as women especially, we
Yeah,
don't rest and play enough. And so,
no,
yeah, I'm going to be doing that challenge soon,
I love
hopefully.
that.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, so, okay, tell us next steps because of course you're coaching. What else do you have on the horizon for you?
Yeah. So obviously, I launched my coaching business officially like 2 weeks ago. So, yeah,
Mhm.
officially in the coaching space as a self love and empowerment coach. And I was able to launch my first program, which actually means a lot to me because it just resonates with what journey I just went through. So, it's a career transition program. And I'm excited about this one because it's not strategy, it's not like, I'm not going to help you with your LinkedIn. I'm not going to help you with your resume. It's all about mindset because, again, like I said, the only way I was able to get through that transition process was because of working on my mindset.
Yeah,
And I think, and this wouldn't like the tools that I teach, it doesn't just help with career transition. Like, mindset helps with any type
yeah,
of goal you want to reach. I think a lot of people don't realize that if you're not reaching a goal, but you're doing all these steps, these actionable steps,
yeah.
100% it's because of your mindset. And so we have to fix that. So that's a program I just launched.
Awesome.
I'm also one of my things I told myself for 2024 when I left, I was like, when I leave news, I want to really like monetize off my skills because I have a lot of skills with like social media, public speaking. And so I want to get more into public speaking, doing
Awesome.
more, conferences, just even just on social media. I don't want to say influencer, but like content creator, working with brands and companies to help with build their brands. Because that's something that a lot of people don't realize, like we don't get money off that.
Yeah,
like,
great.
so just honestly just using all my skills and just and having fun, like playing.
Yeah,
I told my mom that like I want to play more. I want to do less work and I want to play more. And
yeah.
she was like, "What?" And and I was like, "Yeah." And like because that's what makes me happy. I've worked, I mean, granted, I know that generation, I mean, they had to work to survive, to provide.
Yeah,
But I told her, you guys essentially worked all your life to give me better opportunities. A better opportunity for me is to enjoy my life and like chase after opportunities that really light my soul on fire. And that's what I want
yeah.
to do. And so I'm sure that there's just the world is my oyster at this
Yeah.
point, you know?
Possibilities are endless.
Yeah, so I'm excited. Even like, oh, I want to announce this on social media, but you could be the first to know.
I don't know.
So, like I mentioned, I've been on a sober journey for almost 2 years now, and I think community, and I know you will agree with this, community is just so important.
Mhm.
Like, it has made such a huge difference in my journey as just a journalist, as a woman, like in my self-love journey. And so community is so important. So now that I'm back in the Bay, I actually want to create a sober community because the UK has this huge like sober community where they go out and do activities, non-alcoholic, just really have fun. LA has a huge sober community too. And like I was
Wow.
looking for sober communities, sober activities here in the Bay, and there's none. And I'm like, boring.
You.
So, your girl, yes, I'm going to be launching a sober community. It's going to be called the Sober Baddies of the Bay Area.
Woo!
So
Ooh,
yeah, so
okay.
hopefully putting on some different events for people that are sober curious in the Bay
Ah,
Area, working with some different, companies and hopefully some non-alcoholic bars to host some events. So I'm excited for that. I haven't even announced that on Instagram. So you'll be the first to
that's
know.
exciting. Oh, I love that. Oh, and I just have to say too on that note, like when you share your favorite non-alcoholic drinks, I love that because I'm one that doesn't drink hardly at all. Like
Mhm.
major occasions, basically. Um, and so when I see you like saying, "Oh, this I would rate, an 8 out of 10," or what have you, like,
Yeah.
I'm like, "Okay, I'm gonna try those because those look good and they're always aesthetically pleasing and they have cute
Yes.
names." And I'm like, "Okay, I'm gonna go try those."
Yeah, no, I've loved being on this sober journey, and it's always interesting to getting messages from people like, "Oh, I'm
Yeah,
curious about," and I love that. Like
yeah,
I'm not trying to sway people to like not
right,
drink. Like I
right,
just want to share, the benefits that I've had and that you can still be fun and
yeah,
sober. Like I think
yeah.
there's that myth essentially that if you're sober, you're boring. But I'm like, I am the farthest thing from boring.
No, yeah. Trust me, I can testify. I can testify on that.
Thank you.
You are welcome. Well, and also, I told you before we started the podcast too, I'm waiting for Embrace Her Evolution to come back.
Yes,
So
yes,
yeah,
she will be back. I'll give you a little preview. I'm gonna be talking about my journey leaving news.
awesome.
Not essentially why I decided to leave news, but the mindset hurdles that I had to grow through to even put in my resignation letter. Because it's interesting when I announced that I was leaving news, I had a lot of people like in news, saying like, "Oh my gosh, like you're such an inspiration. I want to leave," but also people out of news. I think a lot of people, I think what I love about millennials and even Gen Z is that if we're not happy, we're going to leave. And I
Mhm.
love that for us.
Mhm.
And so it was nice to see a lot of people saying, like, "Oh my gosh, I'm getting that nudge too. Like, this isn't making me happy. Like, I want to pursue this passion. I'm just scared."
Yep.
So I think this episode is really not just going to be helpful for news people, but just anyone looking to maybe not just take a career change, but just create a life that they love.
Yeah.
I think that we get so caught up of like, what is the perfect job? What is the dream job? But I think we really should be thinking about like, what is the life that I want to be living? And
Yeah.
then finding a job that fits into that life.
I love that. And to your point, it doesn't always have to be a career change or a
Hmm.
career pivot. I don't know if you feel the same way, but I felt like during the pandemic, everything slowed down and then we had time
Hmm.
to assess ourselves and reflect and see what we wanted. And then I feel like I haven't been the same since,
Oh
right?
my God.
Because
Yeah.
yeah, because I was like, okay, this is what I want. But at the same time, I went balls to the walls real fast towards the things I wanted. And then now in the past year or so, I'm like, I'm burnt out again because I got so
Mm,
excited, went after the things. And then now I find myself like you wanting to slow down and like
yes.
I come home from my job now and the first two things I do, I kid you not, every night are I have a coloring book and I color.
I
And the
love
second
that.
thing is one of my friends was like, "You gotta get a Nintendo Switch." So I got one and I play Animal Crossing and Mario Kart.
Oh my gosh, my best friend does that too.
So I'm like, I am slowing down and enjoying myself
Yes,
because
and I
to your point, we're
oh,
not
that's Cooper
having enough
barking.
fun. Oh,
Yeah.
it's all good. Cooper, we love you.
It's interesting too because I think people when you say slowing down, people think like, "Oh, just resting, being
Right.
lazy," but like it's whatever it means to
Yep.
you. And I
Yep.
think that's what people need to realize that what my slowing down might not look like your slowing down. Like
Right.
it's who it depends on the person. So it's
Yep.
find what works for you and do that.
Yep. I love that. Oh, you are the best. I love
No,
you.
you're the best.
Oh, no, no. Where can everybody get in touch with you? We're gonna, of course, put that in the show notes, but best ways to connect with you.
Yeah, so I definitely live on Instagram. So you can hit me up on Instagram, A Aguilar. So it's Aguilar TV. Yes, follow, DM, whatever. And then of course, follow on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. My podcast, Embrace Her Evolution. And yes, a new episode should be coming out. I'm aiming by next week.
Yay! And go
Yeah.
check out her new program.
Yes,
Oh,
yes. If yeah, please go to my Instagram. I posted some stuff about it, just what the program is all about. I even
yeah,
posted recently a video of one of my clients and some of the things that we're working on. And if it calls to you, if it resonates, like please hit me up. Hit me
yeah.
up for a consultation call. Like it's not a commitment. Like I just want to talk to you about it and see if it's a fit for you. So yeah, I'm excited about that program.
Yay, I'm excited for you and so much good to come. I just can't wait to see this journey continue to evolve and unfold. And you're just an incredible woman that is leading the way, paving the path for, those of us, those fellow warriors that are dealing with X, Y, and Z. You're paving the path for us to say that, hey, we're here. It's okay to share your story. It's okay to be struggling with things behind the scenes, but share that, you know, when you feel comfortable because people are
Mm-hmm.
going to resonate and
Yes.
people need to know that they're not alone. And so I appreciate you sharing your story, helping others to know that they're not alone as well.
Well, thank you for giving me a safe space for me and other women to share that journey. And I
Absolutely.
agree with you. Like when you're ready, share it because
Yeah.
I will say I shared my story because it was funny. I did a story about colon cancer and ulcerative colitis, and
Mhm.
it was a girl who shared her story. And I was like, if she can share her story with like I'm interviewing her, but if she could share her story for the community, why can't I? And she actually was the one that inspired me to
Wow.
then make my episode. So it really
Wow.
does help being vulnerable, sharing
Mhm.
because like you said, you are struggling, but you're not struggling alone. Like
Yeah,
there's a whole community out there that can resonate.
absolutely. Uh,
Yeah.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Amanda.
you. I appreciate it. I'm so glad we got to do this
Me too.
finally.
Me too. Absolutely.